Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. I'm Steve Shaw. I'm joined today, as always, with Robert Shinetsky, the supplement engineer. Robert, how you doing today?
Doing well, Steve. It's Friday. It's a good day. I see you got your monster. I've got my caffeinated source right here to get us through the next couple of hours of banter and questions and comments. And man, it's a good. Anytime I get with you, it's a good day. So we're doing this.
I forgot to post it last night because I was telling Robert before we jumped on that I ran into a movie late last night called Archive. It's a science fiction movie. And with most science fiction movies, you just expect them to be silly or poorly acted or this was actually pretty good, so I got caught up and didn't get enough sleep. So I'll try to I'll try to compensate with monsters. Anybody that's watching, let us know what you're doing, where you're at, how the gym situation is going. I got clients in Scotland saying that the gyms are pushed back from opening until September, but you can go into pubs and drink. So uh, might as well drink up now and prepare for it. How are things down in Texas?
Still more or less the same. I mean, there's a big fight going on right now. The public school teachers don't want to go teach, and so Sandy teaches in a private Christian school, K through 12, and so they're opening because the AG came out and said, the Austin Public Health, and you can't force private institutions to close. So they're planning to go full bore, giving the kids the option to not go to school if they don't want to, but the Regents is planning to go full bore with everything else. And outside of that, I'm waiting for everything else to open up. They've still got distilleries and breweries shut down. A lot of the activities we do with our 3-year-old are still closed. So we hang low. We're rewatching LSU's football season from 2019, enjoying all the glory that was that season. And outside of that, just enjoying life, working.
I've been watching baseball, trying to pretend like things are normal with cardboard cutouts in the stands and no fans. But all right, guys, we're going to be on for about 2 hours. So post up your questions, any questions, and we don't mind off-topic stuff. If you don't want to talk about creatine again, feel free to post up a question on anything. Diet, training, nutrition, supplementation. Robert is about as expert as you get when it comes to supplements. So if you have a detailed or interesting question, post it up for Robert. If we miss your questions, you can head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman, or for Robert, you can go over to the supplement engineer and spam his inbox. So let's jump in and see what we got. Woodulus is a client of mine from Scotland who was having a little bit of problems posting. So, yeah, I can see that. Yep, morning. Yep. Stan is a client of mine from Norway. Good to have him on board. And I believe he's got the first good question for today. Scott is from Scotland as well. Alrighty, guys, what's happening? I really enjoyed your critique of Jeff's deadlift the other day. It was nice to see someone who wasn't just doing an opportunistic hit piece. It really was a tough decision for me because I don't like diving into that pool without thinking through things. And when I saw that Infinite Edge Intensity had made a video about it, I thought I'm just going to do a video and critique his deadlift like I would one of my clients. And I have nothing against Jeff. I have no, in fact, in this industry where guys are just kind of, when you see somebody with humility or seemingly decency, you kind of have more respect for them than all these crazy guys. I was I was looking at Greg Doucette's. Actually, YouTube fed me one of Greg Doucette's squat videos from 9 years ago. Right, it was just a squat of like 545 from 9 years ago. And you know what I found to be interesting was his voice was completely different. He didn't sound like a cartoon character. He sounded like a normal human being. So I'm like, is he doing a Scott Herman act nowadays or whatever? It made me want to kind of investigate.
I wonder
And
if the massive amount of gear that he's on is affecting his vocal cords.
Robert, I thought you would appreciate this. in one of my videos this past week, I talked about the science of muscle building or something, and I mentioned Dr. Mike in his debate with Greg Doucette, and somebody came back and basically said, no one wants to listen to Dr. Mike. It's way too complicated, and we can't process any of the scientific nonsense that he spouts. So that's kind of, I guess that's kind of where we're at in 2020.
What I find so interesting is that if anybody even bothered to listen to some of the podcasts that Dr. Mike has done, especially on like the Revive Stronger podcast when he does Q&A episodes or on the Renaissance periodization stuff, he gives so many different analogies for a concept that he's talking about that you could put in layman's terms, so where he doesn't get mired down in the science. Yes, he understands it, but he does an exceptional job of giving real world analogies to make it much easier for people to get a grasp on and understand. So that leads me to believe that person didn't actually, it's probably a fanboy of Greg and didn't actually watch anything Dr. Mike actually had to say.
Yeah, I mean, I posted about Doucette on Instagram this week, and I ended up taking it down because I ended up getting hammered by all these fake accounts. They were literally fake accounts with no followers and, no posts and stuff, and it was a little bit sketchy. So I don't want to deal with that shit, I'll just let Doucette swim amongst the sharks and let nature take care of itself.
Right. I find myself, I was never big into social media before. But I mean, even just the past year or so, or I guess since all the COVID nonsense, I've scaled it back even more to where I'll answer messages if people send it, but I'm not very active on posting or engaging in any kind of thing, just because I find it's more soul sucking and cognitively sucking power from anything than contributing or improving anything, I find.
Well, we've talked about this more, and we've talked about this before, and I was born and raised, I matured through the ESPN era of analysis, of sports analysis, when, guys, their swing was constantly being analyzed by experts or their streaks or whatever. So I don't, it's this age has become so sensitive to analysis that it's automatically equated to a personal attack or somebody just digging for views or whatever.
Right.
So I find that very, very interesting. It's hard to talk about anything without 25% of the viewership boiling it down to some stupid, simple, parroted, bullshit. How do you approach that, Robert, when somebody approaches you to analyze or critique something that somebody else did?
Cool. Fortunately, I haven't had this happen to me a whole lot, but on the occasions that it does happen, it usually boils down to something somebody said, like Jim Stoppani or Chris Gethin or one of these, well-known figures in the supplement industry. They'll put out a video that's hyping one of their products, and somebody will say, "What do you really think of this?" And so, whenever I do these things, I make sure it's not a personal attack on them. I mean, if you're putting out some kind of garbage supplement, I'm going to analyze the supplement. I don't care what you do in your personal life or what your past shenanigans have been or whatever. But if you're telling somebody that they need to be supplementing with glutamine or 6 grams of branched chain amino acids every time before they go and train because it's going to make them super anabolic and prevent muscle breakdown, that's when I need to start throwing the red flag out and calling bullshit on some people.
Yeah, there's some people that really piss me off. I mean, there's some people that really piss me off that it's hard for me just to bite my tongue. And if I think somebody's an idiot, sometimes I'll just say I think they're an idiot.
Where I think the biggest thing is when people are trying to scam, especially from the supplement company standpoint, if they're trying to scam consumers saying this is the one thing you're missing, and we have mounds of data showing that it's a garbage ingredient, that's where I usually have get the most vitriolic responses.
All right, guys, post up your questions. We're going to dive in and get rolling. I'm trying to get my wife to come back here because you mentioned Jim Stoppani. And the GNC in our little small town is going out of business. So we decided to pop our little fat watermelon heads in there and check out to see if there was anything actually worthwhile to purchase. So they had Jim's protein powder in there.
Mm-hmm.
And after the discount, my wife's here. She's going to give you her review. Robert, I'm going to pop your head off here in just a minute. Okay.
Hi, Fiona.
Hello.
Okay, so we got Jim's protein powder scoot over, and at GNC on a little bit of a discount. And Fiona's the only one that tried it so far. What did you think of? Tell us your opinion on Jim Stepani's protein powder.
I scooped it out. It was like sawdust.
Sawdust.
And then it tastes like crap. It doesn't taste like, it was just vanilla. It didn't even taste like vanilla. It had no taste. It doesn't mix well. I put like yogurts and water and things, and it just was like glue. It was absolutely repulsive. I was like, I was eating a bowl of sawdust, and then I had to drink lots of water so I didn't choke and die. It was a big plug in my throat.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you.
That's a detailed description.
Yeah, well, it's like we got it sitting around now, and I don't even want to try it because I'm afraid. Robert, do you have any idea who formulates that crap?
I know the guy that did formulate it. The individual that while Jim claims that he formulated all the supplements, the actual formulator behind the brand is a guy named Brian Rand. He's now a partner in Caged Muscle with Chris Gethin. So if you look at the pre-cage, so Chris Gethin's pre-workout and pre-gym, you'll see a ton of similarities because they were formulated by the same guy. Yeah. And I'm interested about, I've never tried Stepani's protein powder. I know the formula. It's got a mixture of whey, egg, and casein, so you kind of get like a staggered release. Right. It's got I believe there's egg protein in there, but you get a staggered release because whey is super fast digesting. Casein is super slow digesting, taking up to like 7 to 8 hours, and egg protein's kind of in the middle of those two, so you get more of a sustained drip of amino acids into the bloodstream as they digest. I've never tried the flavoring, but the casein might be the culprit, making it taste crappy.
Well, needless to say, Fiona is not a fan, and we got a whole tub to deal with, so we're probably going to have to find a way to creatively bake it out of our lives.
Yeah. Vanilla is tough. Just in general, there's not very many good tasting vanilla proteins on the market. Chocolate or cookies and cream is usually a safer bet.
All right, let's dive into some questions, guys. Post them up. I appreciate your patience. We're going to be on for a while, so post up your questions. We will get to them. Stan from Norway, have you or anyone you know suffered from rhabdo? No lifters I know. A lot of people talk about rhabdo. I've never known anyone to have rhabdo. I have a friend that was a runner that may or may not have it. Robert, are kidney issues generally can they be a function of or something that comes from rhabdo?
Kidney issues associated with rhabdomyolysis?
Yeah,
that is something I'm not overly familiar with.
Kidney, liver, I'm not sure. I don't even know.
The kidneys are involved in a lot with hydration and things like that. So, and regulating the electrolyte balance in the body. So, I mean, it probably is a link there to some extent. I don't know the exact mechanisms by which it would work.
For some reason, this guy had like extra protein in his blood, and he had to go through dialysis, or and all this kind of shit. And I don't know if it was tied to rhabdo or not.
I mean, it's possible because rhabdo, you get excessively sore. So you basically run yourself into the ground so hard with intense exercise that your body starts breaking down all of this muscle tissue. And if you end up with hyper, amino acidemia or something like that, basically you have excessive amounts of that in there. And so since the kidneys are processing all of the amino acids and metabolizing them, that I could see it. I could understand there having to be some kind of a filtration that has to go on there with dialysis. But it's not a topic I've delved extensively into.
All right, let's see what we got here. Jamie had messaged me on Instagram, and I told him I got 7,000 messages, so I'm a little bit behind on that. Woodulus from Scotland. Gyms are scheduled to open in Scotland until mid-September, but we can still drink pints and eat burgers without a mask. I don't really have any comment. I made a comment, just a smart ass conspiracy theorist joking comment that after the election in America, everybody's going to suddenly, it's going to feel better. But people think I'm joking, but I'm serious about that. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but this is an election year and people are going to tug and push. That's just my opinion. I don't know. All right. Stan, deadlift. Do I have to use a couple of seconds to reset between each rep, or can I do the next rep after a split second? It depends on if you're tight or not. I'm not talking about bouncing. It really depends on somebody's understanding of the deadlift and understanding of the discipline required to consistently knock out quality reps. So it's not a question I can just answer and say yes or no. I like to reset after every rep. And I would be, I hesitate to call myself an advanced lifter because there's so many than me, but in a relative sense, I guess I'm an advanced deadlifter, and I still do it because it's a mental cue for me. It's really easy to get sloppy on deadlifts. So
I got a deadlift question for you, Steve.
Sure.
If you are not a person that is going to be a competitive powerlifter, or you just don't even want to be just a casual powerlifter, do you see any need in actually doing the deadlift? Or could you substitute it with, Romanian deads and leg curls? So is there any point where you should have to do that? If somebody like Athlete X posted the video of that, but, do you see, he's not a competitive powerlifter, and I don't want us to stay mired in the weeds with him, but just, extending this out to the general public, is it something that people need to do, do you think?
It's a good question. And, I think there's two sides to this coin. And, it's 50-50. I'm going to explain what I mean. Like, I didn't deadlift for 20 years. Back in my day, the weeder, oh, look, YouTube just gave me a notification that I released a video yesterday on Athlete X. Sorry. I get these pop-up notifications. I didn't deadlift for 20 years. I didn't even know it was a lift worthy of consideration. It didn't make it into the bodybuilding magazines. So my rows were kind of mediocre. I was 120s for 2-3 sets of 10 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Does the average individual need to deadlift? Probably not. There's so many, there's so many good lifts. They could probably not floor pull at all and pull from 2, 3, 5 inches off the ground if they wanted to get some of the same benefits for back development without, the punishment. They probably don't have to deadlift at all. They could probably hex bar deadlift or just do tons of rows. Seated cable rows, dumbbell rows, barbell rows, T-bar rows, machine rows, all the pull-ups and pullovers. I like machine pullovers. I'm not sure if you've ever messed with those, Robert.
Yeah. You get much better tension on it than doing the dumbbell version.
But I will say, with all that said, and there are some people that don't understand why I put the deadlift on back workouts. But when you do a lot of deadlift reps, you will get a sore back. When I compare my back to a back of a bodybuilder that doesn't deadlift, there's a definitive difference generally in thickness. So, does the average person need to deadlift? Probably not. There's so many good back exercises out there, and they're not after optimal back thickness, right? I just have an obsession with the lift, so that's just a personal thing, but generally not, generally not at all.
What I find it interesting is that, there was this craze, I guess, in the early mid-2000s about functional fitness, and you started doing all this stupid shit like balancing on Bosu balls or doing curls while standing on one leg and all that shit. But the deadlift is incredibly functional. I mean, how many times in your life do you bend down and then have to pick something up? I mean, I wonder why that one isn't, I guess, regarded with the same hallowed status among functional fitness gurus.
Yeah, if you compare the squat and the deadlift, how many times during your life have you had to put a weight on your back and, squat it, doing deep knee bend? That's about the least functional exercise there is. Whereas a deadlift, you're picking something off the ground, that's more realistic and more applicable to daily life. So
right.
Someone's going to blow smoke up my ass about that. But, the bench press is the same way. unless you're doing a sport, pushing something away from you or fighting a tiger, you generally don't have much of an opportunity to use that bench press strength. That doesn't mean it doesn't carry over to athletic performance. It does. I firmly believe it does.
Right.
But unless you're getting raped by a 400-pound woman and need to press her off your chest, it's not very functional. So, but if you're getting raped by a 400-pound woman, you might as well just go with the flow. You might learn a few things. I don't know. All right. Been on adventures. Hey, Friday crew. Woohoo. I just finished my workout. New rep PR 40 by 4 by 20 on dumbbell flat bench. That's Herculean. Way to go. Those types of numbers really get me excited when I see that, because when I see a lifter doing something like that, that's mental strength, not just physical strength. So well done. All right, guys, keep your questions coming. If you have any supplement questions, please post them on up. NADPAD, what's your opinion on sprinting, running to build conditioning? Robert, I'm going to throw this your way just to throw you off balance first. What's your opinion on sprinting and running conditioning?
Sprinting,
two different things. Let's establish that.
Right, yeah. Sprinting is basically you were going balls to the wall, and you're only going to be able to manage that for 10 to 15 seconds. As something for conditioning, I've got a couple of thoughts on it. What is your athletic background? Are you somebody that has been trained to do sprinting a lot? Because that is, if you're not used to doing it and you try to go hit the pavement right now and go right out there and go from 0 to 60, you're going to end up tearing a hamstring most likely, or pulling something. Which is why if you look at a lot of the conditioning advice for people that do suggest sprinting, they recommend doing like a falling start or sprinting uphill, because those have been shown to be less damaging to the hamstrings and less likely to result in an injury. I don't think it's necessary by any means. I mean, sprinting is a fundamental, it's primal movement pattern. So, way back when we were cavemen, we had to run or over, so we were going to get eaten by a fucking tiger, a cheetah, a lion, something like that. Do I think that people need to do it nowadays? If you've got good knees and you don't have a history of hamstring issues and you enjoy that kind of conditioning, sure. I think it's fine. I don't think there's an absolute, just like there's no absolute lift you have to do to build muscle. There's other ways of conditioning. So it's good. Running, long, steady state running, or jogging is what I'm assuming he's referring to.
No, he said the word jogging.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start twitching. Sorry.
I'm not super fan of that as far as conditioning or cardio, just because it's long, slow, and it's very, very harsh on the joints. So I'm not a big fan of that.
I'm going to chime in on sprinting. I really do not like, and this is probably going to sound controversial, but it's just my opinion, and do whatever you want. But for anybody over the age of 25 that's not involved with athletics, I find explosive movements rather pointless, and the ROI just not there. I just don't see them as necessary. If you want to build up your anaerobic capacity, there's other ways to do it without, encouraging muscle tears and stuff like that.
You could do something like kettlebell swings or something like that. I mean, that's something that's just as high intensity as sprinting could be, and it'll get your heart rate through the roof. It offers a great conditioning effect, and it's also, you're working your explosive, and so you'll develop athleticism that way. But it's much less taxing to the joints and less risk of an injury than compared to sprinting.
Yeah, go on YouTube and watch somebody do 100 Turkish get-ups. And, about number 40, they're stepping into some, different plane of reality, because it's super, super intense. So,
yeah.
If you're going to do sprinting or you want to really improve your conditioning, uphill work or elevation work is really, really challenging. You don't have to sprint. You don't even have to sprint. Runners, a lot of the ultra runners will go out and they'll have an elevation day where they just do hill work. They'll pick a long, like you see these places where they have the telephone poles at the top of a hill. And it's like 200 yards up the top of the hill. They'll go up and down and up and down for 2 hours. Just incredible elevation work. That, the average person could do that for 30 minutes, and it's a really good conditioning exercise. Running, I'm a runner, but ultimately for the average person, go hike, just get out and hike. The elevation change, I found that after 4 years of really intense hiking, that I could run, 2 or 3 miles without stopping. Conditioning, you got to ask what am I conditioning myself for? You want to be in better physical condition. There's so many things you can do. Running is definitely one of them. Anything that gets your heart rate up.
Even like high intensity body weight circuits or something, like a circuit training of body weight exercises, you can do that to improve conditioning too, or interval training. Any of those are fine.
Yeah, Robert, I'm going to take this down a little rabbit trail for a moment and ask you, have you ever seen these people doing these body pumps things? I got some clients that do them, and I'm not downplaying them because my clients are moving, so that's a great thing. But all the air punching and the pseudo kicking and all that kind of stuff. What are your thoughts on that? I always thought it was kind of a lot of flailing for little ROI as far as calories burned.
Yeah, I'm more especially for somebody that's been a trained martial artist. So I've got my black belt in Taekwondo. And seeing some of these hokey martial arts inspired group training classes where they're not teaching proper punching technique, they're not teaching proper kick technique, proper stances. That's one of those things that's always kind of grinded my gears. About as bad as you see the karate schools that give black belts to 9-year-olds. I could really go down a wormhole if we wanted to get if I wanted to get my panties in a twist about that. I think there's much more efficient ways, but I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's getting people up and moving. If it gets them excited about it, what's the greater evil here? Do I think they're going to pull a hamstring or dislocate their shoulder or tear a rotator cuff doing these little baby punches and kicks that they do in these group fitness classes? No. For a conditioning or a workout, if somebody that's just purely interested in having a really good workout and feeling exhausted and sweaty and tired at the end, sure, you can do it if you want to. But I think if you're expecting to get some kind of like amazing body transformation from it or build a lot of muscle, you're going down the wrong path. And that's a conversation I had with a guy about 2 weeks ago. He had done some body pump classes, but he's wanting to start to improve his physique. His big thing is he wants to lose belly fat and tone up is what he keeps saying. That those are words that just kind of make me want to hit my head against the wall. But I know where he's coming from because that's the narrative that's always pushed by the fitness magazines and the fitness blogs and all of that others and shit on social media. So I said, first thing I said, if you're already skinny and you're trying to lose the little bit of belly that you have, stop doing the body pump classes. Let's get you on a structured resistance training program. And then if you still want to do something to get your heart rate up once or twice a week, we can explore options for that. But it's those group fitness classes, I understand where they're coming from and they have, I think, good intentions at heart. I don't think they're organized the best way.
Well, I would say, like, when I see somebody doing air punching, like I can do it right here. Okay. I don't have the explosiveness or speed, but there's no resistance. And anything you're going to do exercise-wise, even running or sprinting or whatever, has some resistance. You're pushing against something. And when I see workout formats where you're just flailing in the air and there's no form of resistance, I don't really consider them effective. I'd rather see you doing a Stairmaster or something where you're actually pushing against something to burn calories. Yeah. Anyway.
If you do the punch and kick combinations hard enough, you'll definitely get your heart rate up just from, that's what we always started off after doing, 10 or 15 minutes of calisthenics. We'd move into punch and kick combinations, either on a heavy bag or a kick shield or sometimes just in the air. And if you progress to the level where you can snap your kicks hard enough and you're doing, a multi-move combination, you can definitely get a conditioning effect from there, but you've got to know what you're doing. Because if you just like you said, you're barely just putting your fist out there and doing these kind of like half-ass punches and kicks, you're not going to get much of an effect from it.
Yeah, and there's classes out there. You search boxing, and there's all these kinds of boxing classes where people are actually punching a bag and have some form of resistance. Yeah. We have a bag in our gym, and it's just a much better way to get a workout than just air punching. So anyway, right. I don't want to talk about air punching for 10 minutes, but that's what you get. All right, Stan, I'm relaxing in my hammock listening to you guys. Nothing could be better. Well, I appreciate that. Appreciate you guys following along. Chris, what's going on, Chris? Keep your questions coming, guys. We're going to rock on and get to them. I promise we won't talk about air punching anymore unless you want us to. Jamie, so start back in the gym next week. Only allowed 1 hour sessions. Good grief. The world we live in is just madness. So obviously doing full body 3 times a week. I'm just looking for a rough guideline for sets, reps. Well, Jamie, first know that you don't have to just do a full body. You could do an A-B split. That might be a little bit more efficient to get in with an hour workout. I do legs and back for my clients a lot, and the other B is chest, shoulders, and arms. You could do that as well. It's a little bit easier to squeeze that in. You just alternate every other workout. You get 1.5 times per week. Rough guideline as far as sets and reps, probably limited time. You probably want to be looking at about 9 sets per major body part: chest, shoulders, back, and legs, and then whatever you can fit in for minor body parts. Robert, any thoughts?
Nope, you crushed it, Steve. I just tell them to check out one of the A/B splits you got on the Super Living site.
Yeah, I got a bunch of free stuff, so check that out. All right, would you list? I posted about this on my a Facebook page. Thoughts on the Fermi paradox. Robert, do you have any idea what this is?
You're going to need to educate me.
All right, so let me pull it up and get the official definition for folks. Fermi paradox, named after the Italian-American physician Enrico Fermi, is the apparent contradiction between the lack of evidence for extraterrestrial civilizations and various high estimates for their probability. So basically, the paradox is we live in an infinite space, yet there should be infinite amount of life forms, yet we have no evidence for them. And the issue is that there's probably a lot of life out there, but that the distance between this life is such an exceptionally challenging that you may never reach another creature. As an astrophysicist, and I'll bounce this out there, and we'll get talking about this and see what Robert has to say. Like me as a human being in the era we live in, I think it's our job not to colonize Mars, but rather to take seriously the opportunity to send out seeding units across space. We could send out 1 million in 1 million different directions that were, just propelled and drawn to water or whatever we want to do. We could spread life. I think if you're really an intelligent species, that is something that you would take seriously, the spreading of life, not just colonization. And I always thought, because of the distance between habitable planets, that it would be easier for advanced species to send out self-replicating robots at whatever scale that were able to go through space and self-replicate without the challenges of being the more challenging problems that come with being a life form that needs greater amount of resources. So I don't know, Robert, why don't we I certainly don't believe in little flying saucers. Robert, what's all your view on all the alien hype and why we haven't met anything?
I mean, I would agree. I think it's arrogant to assume that we are the only intelligent life form out in the world. As vast as the universe is, I think it's human arrogance to think that there's not something out there. I don't know if you ever watched the show Ancient Aliens on History Channel. Yeah. I mean, they go into a lot of conspiracy theories and a lot of stuff that I think is what?
Some of it's crazy, yeah.
Yeah, some of it is a little bit far-fetched. I mean, there was one like Ancient Aliens and the Civil War is weird. There is some stuff on there that is that does give you pause and make you think, like some of the stuff in the Mayan culture, some of the things that they found there. And Pumapunku is another one. Do we know what's actually going on in Roswell? I mean, that's kind of where everybody always thinks, like Area 51 and Roswell is where we're hiding all the alien technology. There's not to say that we haven't seen some stuff before. Maybe it's not released. Maybe it is. I would like to believe there's some evidence out there that we have it, but at the same time, do you really want to know if there's aliens out there or not? And are they aggressive? Are they nice? Or they just don't really give a flying fuck about us?
Well, let me blow your mind a little bit. In infinite space, when you're dealing with infinity, and I've had people try to argue with me that space isn't infinite. Now to ask them, if you're standing at the edge of your finite space, what is 5 feet to the right of that edge? There has to be something. Space just does not stop. Rather, if you just view it as a sum of planets or matter or stars or whatever, or universes or galaxies, there's always something 5 feet to the right of whatever you define as the end, unless, as far as the context that we understand it. So infinite, okay? Infinite would mean there's infinite amounts of life forms, infinite. Infinite would mean there's infinite people living on infinite planets, very similar to Earth. And there's infinite Roberts doing infinitely different things at this same time. That's the multiverse. There's infinite of me. It's just probability. It's basic probabilities. There's infinite of everything. And with infinite, there's an infinite opportunity for terror, and there's an infinite opportunity for peace. Okay. So we can't even get our shit together on Earth. And we're expecting aliens are going to be advanced cultures that'll just come down. They could send down anal raping robots for what, for the love of God, for whatever reason. It could be their religion. Who knows? I don't know. So it can be in infinity. The bottom line presents the opportunity for a lot of terror and unpredictable things. So that's all I have to say.
Well put.
NADPAD. From that to creatine. All right. Is there a best type of creatine, or what do you recommend, Robert?
Creatine monohydrate. Don't dick around with creatine ethyl ester, creatine magnapower, creatine hydrochloride. Either do creatine monohydrate or creatine anhydrous. So creatine monohydrate means it's got one water molecule attached to it. Anhydrous just has the water molecule removed. So it's without water. Anhydrous means without water. So either two of those forms, 3 to 5 grams a day, and you're set.
All right. Robert, you pronounce this gentleman's name.
Uyut.
I work out first thing in the morning, fasted, 5'5", 135, power lifter. Is HMB helpful?
Not really. If you're consuming enough protein during the day, HMB is not going to do much of anything for you. It's a metabolite of leucine. So leucine is the anabolic trigger of protein synthesis. It's the king of the amino acids. Gets mTOR going, starts muscle protein synthesis. HMB is a metabolite of that that's shown to have stronger anti-catabolic properties. So it is more powerful in stopping muscle breakdown than leucine is, but leucine can do it just as effectively. But at the end of the day, there's enough research, and go check out Brad Schoenfeld's Instagram feed. He's published a bunch of he hasn't published the research, but he has posted on the studies. And I've got some other research on an article on advancedmolecularlabs.com, kind of debunking how useless HMB really is.
Anything you would say is most beneficial for those? I get the workout fasted question a lot. And people ask me, should I eat? Shouldn't I eat? It's highly personal, but any supplements you would recommend?
He could sip on some intra-workout carbs or amino acid, like an essential amino acid formula or something if he wants to. Otherwise, if you just train fasted and you like not having anything in your system, just eat right after you finish training and you'll be fine.
Yeah, Woodulus is mentioning Greg Doucette is trying to do Gilbert Godfrey.
Let me go step out for 1 second, Steve. I'll be right back. I got to go handle something for the toddler.
Yeah, no problem. I was going to actually pull up the video of Greg Doucette in his squat video from a while back, but just where he's talking normally. But I would encourage you guys to check his channel. There's a video that's about 9 years ago, 9 years old, where I swear his voice is completely different. Let me see if I can find it. That's about 9 years. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on, guys. Post up your questions. I'm gonna search Greg Doucette and squats here and see if I can find it real quick. Here it is. I found it. I'm gonna try to pull this over into a different window. Okay. And I'm going to, Robert, you back? You back, Robert?
Yep. I just had to go adjust something for her, and then in about another 15 or 20 minutes, I need to go give her her next dose of medicine.
Okay. So since we're talking about Greg Doucette, I have a squat video from him from 9 years ago, and I want you guys to listen to this just neutrally and tell me if his voice is completely different in this video or if it is just me. Hold on one second. All right, here we go. And I'm just going to get our ugly faces out of there. I'm going to get this out of there. And just listen and tell me what you think.
There you go. All right, I'm here at the Fitness Specs Gym in Halifax. I'm ready to do a set of squats. Try something with no belt. And 38 pounds on the bar, so I don't expect too many reps. And it's mostly just a test run to see how the camera's holding up.
All right, so there you have it, ladies and germs. Tell me how you go from talking normally like that to talking like Gilbert Godfrey. Please.
It's a lot of juice.
I don't know. I mean, it seems like an act to me. You know, Scott Herman doesn't act. He doesn't really talk like that. I could do a crazy act. I don't know what I would talk like, but it's nothing in YouTube fitness surprises me. It seriously doesn't. Scott McEarlane, yes, that's right. Greg Doucette has a totally different demeanor and voice now that he figures being a jabbering, squawking troublemaker gets him views. You know, like yesterday in my video about Athlete X, I said I'm not a psychologist. I don't want to get into psychology and speculate. I just want to look at it from a scientific standpoint. And when you look at Greg Doucette, that video we just watched, he seems normal, humble, reasonable, and there's no comedic yabbering or voice style. So it is what it is. You guys decide. It's for you guys to figure out, draw your own conclusions. Stan, I saw a huge bull out in the field today. We're not even going to touch that. Why do bulls have such huge muscles when they just eat grass? Don't they need as much protein as us? Like what about a dinosaur? Why were they so huge? Why were they like 50 feet or 100 feet? And they just ate trees. It's not really about, it's not, the logic flow doesn't go eat grass, has no protein, can't build muscle. You know, that's a paradigm we live in the muscle building world. Robert, I want you to dive into this one and have a say.
What I'm thinking is, I mean, I wonder if this is partly tongue in cheek about the Game Changers documentary, that vegan documentary, or hype piece. I wouldn't even call it a documentary. There's so much misinformation in that thing. But they said, they had somebody in there that says, look, Gorilla's a vegan. He eats a bunch of trees, and he's fucking jacked as all hell. I'm thinking that's
not how it works, right?
Bull physiology is not the same as human physiology. Is not the same as gorilla physiology. It's two completely different things. Different species have different nutrient needs. Habits are different. It's vastly different. The way their bodies metabolize things are different than ours.
Yeah, I mean, each animal species developed, for a reason. Likely some of it was a defense mechanism. If you look like a wall, you're probably less likely to be bitten by a snake or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something to it. I mean, human evolution, if you're walking down the street and you look like Goldberg, you're less likely to have somebody, bother you. So
yeah,
very complex. But, as far as the amount of food that animals like this eat, I'm sure somebody could find how much grass or hay a bull or a cow eats per day, and it would probably be rather shocking.
Yeah, and they also spend like 16 hours a day eating too, where you and I, our meals are done in 15 to 20 minutes. We do that 4 or 5 times a day. It's an hour and a half. Gorillas, cows, they spend a significant majority of the day just chewing and chewing and chewing, trying to break down all that plant matter.
Right. All right, Angus. I'm trying to put on weight, and I've heard adding oil to foods when cooking to add calories is helpful, but I'm not sure it's safe for my health. I'm going to start and I'll let Robert finish. You got to get out of the nonsense that eating good quality fats is somehow going to destroy your health, your heart, high cholesterol, blood pressure. The reality is eating shit foods, processed sugar, processed flour, fast foods, the majority, like if you look at the cumulative impact of all the ingredients and additives in the foods we eat, that's the danger. Not eating avocados or nuts or, adding a little bit of coconut oil or whatever. I will say before Robert gets into this, if you're struggling to put on weight, add cheese to things, add sour cream to things, get some heavy cream at the store, add an ounce or two to a protein shake, that sort of thing. Robert, jump right in and let me know your thoughts on this.
I mean, you nailed everything pretty much right on the thing. I mean, watch out for, there's not really any bad fats, save the trans-saturated fats, so the stuff that they used to make in all the packaged and processed goods. So if you see something that says partially hydrogenated oil, you want to avoid those. But since you're trying to avoid most processed foods in general, then you automatically limit those to begin with. A reasonable amount of saturated fats from things like egg yolks, red meat, and all that stuff, that's fine. Your body needs a certain amount of saturated fat just to synthesize hormones and function at a basic, level. Outside of that, other delicious fats, fatty fish is really good. Peanut butter is amazing. Olive oil is good if you're making your own homemade salad dressing. I don't know if I would add olive oil to a shake though. That would be kind of gross. Although I have seen recipes that say throw a tablespoon or two of olive oil in there if you're really struggling for calories. I just wouldn't do that. That would taste disgusting and it'd be a waste of good olive oil. But yeah, as long it's no single macronutrient is the devil. Maybe save alcohol.
Be careful, Robert.
Yeah. What?
Be careful. You're offending me. I'm offended by that statement, Robert.
Well, in moderation, there's enough studies showing a relationship between moderate alcohol intake, so 1 to 2 drinks per day for men, 1 drink for women, and improved cardiovascular outcomes, improved longevity. I think that's more a result of lifestyle factors than necessarily maybe some benefit of alcohol. But all that being said, I'm still going to enjoy my bourbon or craft beer when I have that. Anyway, back to it. You gotta realize that no single macronutrient is going to make you fat or unhealthy. It is the cumulative effect of chronic overconsumption of foods, which leads to the hardening of arteries, obesity, diabetes, all of those things. So, but just simply increasing your calorie intake from some healthy fats, like the ones we mentioned, butter, cream, cheese, all the other good dairy foods, fish oils, all that stuff, that's going to be perfectly fine.
There's some things to consider. I'm going to toss you a question here shortly, Robert, but there's some things to consider with oils because, if you like to cook, different oils have different smoke temperatures. So sometimes you want to do actually a mixture of oils, depending on what you're cooking.
Right.
So keep that in mind. We like to keep olive oil around and coconut oil, and obviously finish off some of our proteins with butter. And this is just a pro tip. For those of you that want to increase your love life, get two vats of coconut oil, one for cooking, and one with a wider mouth, right? A wider mouth so you can fit that big hand in there, because you can use coconut oil in the bedroom. It's a great lubricant, and you don't have to worry about tasting it. It doesn't have an off-putting taste. It's rather neutral. So you can apply it to various areas of the body. And as you move and ebb and flow and do the little dance, you don't have to worry because, it's healthy and not off-putting. So, Robert, there's your Pornhub tip of the day. All right, Robert.
Go and buy a bottle of coconut oil now after this.
Yeah.
Does it work as well for avocado oil? Because I have a bottle of avocado oil in the pantry.
Yeah, you got to make sure you can get your hand in there because you got big fat hands like me. I'm going to ask you a question, Robert. My stupid watch just told me to move. Like, fuck off, watch.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I'm busy. When it comes to people adding stuff to their coffee, like fats to their coffee, coconut oil, their coffee, or whatever, you've seen this occur. What are your thoughts on that? I'm going to toss that to you. I'm going to go take a leak while you answer that question.
Oh, thanks. By and large, I mean, it's calories, so it's going to make you feel fuller. where the issue I have with people with adding a bunch of calories, like the huge whopping tablespoon of grass-fed butter, or whatever kind of yak sperm manifested butter that Dave Asprey and the Bulletproof nut bags use. I mean, it's adding a substantial amount of calories to your diet. So since you're ingesting upwards of 500 calories, it makes sense that it would have a hunger suppressing effect, especially when you couple that with coffee in and of itself has hunger suppressing effects as well. I don't like the taste of fat in my coffee. I like my coffee black, maybe a little bit of sweetener in there. If it's not really a dark roast coffee, if it's a lighter roast coffee, I'll add some sweetener into it. But there, I don't really buy into the hype of MCT oils or anything like that. Yeah, they might have some cognitive benefits, as well as improving energy production in the body. But your body metabolizes them similar to the way it does glucose. So it's a rapidly digested energy source that doesn't need to go through the breakdown that other long chain fatty acids do. I was ranting about, Steve, how people say there's some magic to Bulletproof coffee, and I'm thinking, all right, well, yeah, when you take a huge heaping tablespoon of butter and you're adding upwards of 500 calories to your coffee, of course it's gonna suppress your hunger. You're ingesting a shit ton of calories along with the hunger suppressing effects of caffeine and coffee in general. Right. I don't buy into any kind of magical cognitive benefit from MCTs. If you look at the MCT research, they're using considerably higher amounts of medium chain triglycerides than you would find in like the little Bulletproof coffee doses or anything like that. Plus, I don't like the taste of it in my coffee. I just want my coffee black. If I have to drink like some really weakly made coffee or a light roast or a blonde roast, I'll throw a packet of sweetener in there or something. But I don't like. I used to like my coffee really sweet and really creamy, and then the more you start to drink it, the more you start to appreciate just like the bitter notes and the dark tasting of it. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that. That's kind of one of those hidden sources of calories for people that don't really understand that, liquid calories and adding fat to coffee, it's still going to add up at the end of the day.
One thing I found interesting, as you scroll through Instagram and you see the keto people or the Bulletproof coffee people or the avocado toast people, it's like some of y'all are eating like, putting oil in your coffee and avocado on everything. And like your breakfast is like 1,000 calories. You might want to chill on that because you're just like all fat. I'm just amazed sometimes at the fads we pull into play at the expense of common sense.
Yeah.
All right, Chris says hit that like button. Anybody that hits that like button wins Friday, so I appreciate it. Pop at the door. Opinions on intermittent fasting, just as a lifestyle, not for losing weight. Robert, I'll let you start with that one.
I mean, if it works for your lifestyle and it can help you stick to your calorie goals and everything, I don't have an issue with it. I typically, I don't know if I classify it as intermittent fasting strictly because I'm not within that 16 to 8 window like a lot of the most common ways of doing intermittent fasting are. But I'm not hungry first thing in the morning, so I usually don't start eating until 12 or 1 o'clock whenever I finish my workout. Sometimes I'll have a protein bar right before my workout for the day if it's something really intense like a leg workout like yesterday was. But by and large, I'm not hungry in the morning, so I don't feel the need to eat right away. Whereas my wife is completely different. She needs to eat something as soon as she wakes up, or she turns into like a ravenous, vicious savage that would eat my face.
Right, my wife's the same way. Like if she doesn't eat every 2 to 3 hours, I hear about it.
Yeah, I do. It's got to be something in female physiology that's that way because Sandy is the exact same way. And we will have just finished like a huge meal, and 3 hours later she's saying, "I'm hungry. What should I eat now?" And I'm thinking, I feel like my body's still digesting everything we just eat.
I'm gonna finish dismantling this tank, and when I'm done, then I'll eat and think about eating.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's difference in physiology. Like if I'm in the middle of a project, like, hey baby, I'm going to dismantle this tank and then put it back together, and then I'll eat. Whereas they're like, I gotta eat.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I've read some things that, especially with the intermittent fasting, like so guys tend to function better on like the 16 to 8 or 18-6, but they recommend for females because of their hormone cycles and stuff, they tend to work better on a 14-10 hour schedule. So maybe that has something to do with it. I mean, if it's for the back to pop at the doors remark, I mean, if you're hitting your calorie goals and your protein needs every day, then sure. I mean, is it going to be optimal for maybe building muscle and recovery? Not necessarily depending on what time of day you're training, but I mean, as far as a lifestyle thing, it can work if it works for you. Yeah.
Yeah. The main thing is like, number one, don't turn it into a religion. If there's mornings where you want to go out to eat with your buddies or whatever, or go have brunch with your mom, don't be the douchebag that says, I do intermittent fasting and I can't do this. I mean, anybody, I'll probably piss somebody off by saying this, but if your eating lifestyle prevents you from interacting socially, and you can never break your protocol, you're a douchebag. You seriously are. Unless it's for medical reasons, you're a fuck stick.
That's also that's an early warning sign of an eating disorder too.
Right. If you're bringing Tupperware to Thanksgiving, or you're at Thanksgiving with your family and you can't have any turkey until 5:01 or whatever, you don't be that guy.
Right.
And the other challenge as a lifestyle is getting in enough protein. As long as your calories and protein are in line with your goals, you're fine. Just find a way to get in that protein, because it can be hard for normal people to get in their protein each day with easy access to carb-centric, fat-centric foods that we have.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go dope up the halfling. I'll be back.
All right. We got Chucky Weber. Yesterday, deadlifting. I had to stop halfway through to throw up. Is it essential to finish in the next workout only the last part that I missed? I wouldn't do that at all. Don't feel that if you can't finish a workout for whatever reason that you need to go back and get those sets in or the world's going to end. If something like that happens, just move on to your next workout. Just move on. It's a long game. Play the long game. One thing I stress is that if something isn't working in your workout, something feels off, live to fight another day. Whatever happened to you during deadlifting, don't go back and go through the re-warm-up process the next day or later in the day, that sort of thing. Don't go back and do that. Just continue on with your next workout session. Scott McEarling, rhabdo seems to be prevalent in CrossFit. I'm not going to argue with you there, because most of the rhabdo comments I've seen have been tied in CrossFit, but CrossFit is one of these things that's an easy target. So I'm not sure if it's because it's an easy target or if it's because people in CrossFit circles talk about it, or what. Do you have any opinion on that, Robert?
You nailed it pretty well. I mean, you could do. I mean, there are people that can get rhabdo from doing P90X or doing anything too much. It's the excess. It's the dose. It's not the the dosage makes the poison. It's not necessarily the modality of exercise. Although I do think there are certain elements of the CrossFit culture, just the certain extreme exercise protocols out there, and you could. I mean, this could apply to P90X, other home workout programs, and things like that, where you have that's drive of having to push yourself to the point of exhaustion, where you don't need to do that to get results. You need to tax yourself sufficiently, but you don't have to do it to the point where you're throwing up in your workouts. I think that adopting that mindset, or embracing those kind of cultures, is what leads more to the rhabdo than actually the element or the training protocol of CrossFit itself.
Each different form of exercise, you will find as you dive into it, has its own set of beliefs, its own set of things they focus on, its own pseudo religion. Like, I don't imagine in CrossFit there's a lot of people going, what muscle does that work? And I don't believe there's probably a lot of people that say, how should I do CrossFit if I'm an endomorph or mesomorph? Not to make fun of lifting, but there's a very different mindset. Runners don't go, like trail runners don't go, how should I approach running as an endomorph, or an ectomorph, that sort of thing. So I think rhabdo seems to have woven itself into the culture somehow as part of something they talk about more frequently than lifting.
Yeah.
Nad Pad. I don't know if this is BS or not. When you take whey protein post-workout without carbs, is it true that a lot of it doesn't get absorbed, your body, so consuming with carbs will allow it to?
No, the transporters in the intestines that absorb amino acids are different from the transporters that take up carbohydrates. Plus, whey protein on itself will promote an insulin spike, which will facilitate the transportation of the amino acids from the bloodstream into the muscle tissue. So you can take whey without carbs, and it'll be perfectly digested and bioavailable without carbs, with or without carbs.
One thing I preach, and one thing I think Robert backs me up on most times when I preach this, is any question that calls into play the fragility of the human body. Like, if we don't perfectly time this, if we don't do this, the body's not going to be able to digest this, or the body's not going to be able to recover. 99% of the time, and Robert can correct me if I'm wrong, it's usually complete bullshit. The body's not that fragile.
Agreed.
Okay. Woodulus. Ryan Humiston and Woodulus sent me the video of this. Did a video on coffee killing gains, and this might be my next target. I might do a video about this, because I think he also did a video about, I don't know what, somebody else sent me a video about something else. Now he's selling pre-workouts with caffeine. I don't know. What can you add to that?
How far apart was his initial video where he said coffee's killing your gains, and from when he started hawking a pre-workout? I'm curious to see the pre-workout formula, if anything. But I mean, people are allowed to change their opinions over time. You are allowed to change an opinion on the way you feel of something. But if last week he said coffee's killing your gains, and then this week he's trying to sell you a pre-workout with caffeine, that's when I would maybe have an issue where it seems a little disingenuous, and he's trying to just make a quick buck. I mean, you are allowed to observe the evidence and make a change on something over time, but I need a little bit more context. Or I guess I need to see when the two separate videos were published. I need to look up his pre-workout first of all.
Yeah, I didn't know he was getting in that realm. I've talked about this before, but back in my day, there was limited information. You had Iron Man magazine, you had Flex and Muscle and Fitness, and basically that's it. And there was always nutritional studies, nutritional information, and it was packaged and dumbed down for the lifter. And there was some fear back then in the late 80s that caffeine, the mechanism that how it created energy was to destroy muscle tissue to create energy. So there was some fear back in my day, the late 80s, about overconsumption of caffeine, that it could impact muscle. Now, obviously, as I matured and read more and learned more, I realized that was nonsense. So, Ryan could have come from that era. Ryan seems nearly as old as I am. It's hard to say, but, if it was a recent video, I want to know. I know he mentioned a study, right? And that was, whenever you see one study that goes against common sense, that's not the way science works. And Robert can back me up on this. Science is looking at all the studies, not one study. Would you agree, Robert?
Yeah, we got to look at the totality of the evidence before you can kind of make a decision one way or the other. Don't let each new study coming out, sway you from one end of the spectrum to the other. Everything is a contribution to an existing pool of knowledge. And so it doesn't look like Ryan Humiston is actually peddling a pre-workout, because when I type in Ryan Humiston pre-workout, nothing's coming up except for the video where he says pre-workout supplements and caffeine for the win, which was made on May 8th.
Well, if anybody has a link to a specific product, drop it into the comments section. I believe you can post links,
et
cetera. And I'd be happy to pull it up and screen share it. Bennett Adventures, I'm incorporating Henselman's recommended calf jumps. Basically, use your quads to get the weight to the top position of a calf raise and control the eccentric. Not heard of that. One thing I do a lot, I've done a lot in home gym environments, is like rocking calf raises, where you rock back and rock up on your toes. Mm-hmm. It sounds awkward, sounds weird, but Yeah, it's a little bit easier than pushing off the floor or not having a pad or a block. So sounds interesting. I don't know if you've ever tried anything like that, Robert, or if you mess with calf exercises at all.
Outside of the standard calf ones, no. I mean, I've done regular calf jumps, but I haven't heard of Menno's form of doing this. It's interesting. I mean, you're strongest in the eccentric portion of the movement, so this is a good protocol for trying to overload the calves even more with heavier weight that they couldn't just lift by themselves.
Yeah, I could see doing that in a rest pause type of environment. But if you're unable to walk the next day, blame it on Mr. Henselman, not me.
Yep.
Larry S., I track my nutrients macros, and I consistently notice my iron intake is at 40 to 50%. What's your opinion? Is this something to be concerned about, Robert? And if so, what should he do?
Usually men do not need iron supplements, which is why you don't see iron included in very many, if any, men's multivitamins. It's usually as well because most men consume enough animal foods, chicken, beef, pork, eggs, all of that good stuff. Plus some greens have, the non-heme form of iron in them. So you should be getting close to your iron amount. If you're concerned that you're low on it, like if you're experiencing low energy levels or, you have anemia or something like that, go get a blood panel from your doctor and make sure they test for iron levels. And then we can discuss maybe if you want to look into an iron supplement, but that's not something without having more knowledge on it. I'm not going to go and recommend somebody just take an iron supplement right off the bat, especially if they're eating enough protein throughout the day from high quality animal sources.
I would rather have you look at, what can you do from a food standpoint to bring your iron up?
Yeah. Start eating more red meat too.
So,
or pork.
Yeah, I run into so many people that don't like veggies and or say they don't like veggies, but at some point you got to find some that you will eat that can provide you with the micronutrients you need, and you need to take it like a man, woman, or whatever, and just take your beating.
I haven't met a vegetable I don't like, I don't think. I mean, I used to be a super picky eater. When I was growing up, my favorite foods were chicken nuggets, pizza, plain hamburger, no cheese on it, just ketchup, French fries, and ketchup was my only vegetable. And then right around my sophomore year of college, I had this like epiphany, this awakening. I started watching Food Network back when Food Network actually showed cooking shows. And I started with something simple, just like making my own homemade salsa. And then it exploded into me wanting to try and cook anything and everything I could get my hands on. So it's just, I think people need to find like their gateway thing. And then that can open them up to a new world, because I used to be somebody that hated the sight of vegetables, lettuce, everything. And it's just, you can come around to it once you figure out how to cook it for yourself and get excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to work in vegetables. Spinach, for example, you can finely chop spinach and you can work that into mashed potatoes. You take just a handful of spinach and you finely chop it, it'll wilt down to nothing. You can work that in just things like that. Roasting, we roast potatoes and squash, things like baby bok choy, things that I think the problem is like people look at vegetables as something they eat as a side dish just on their plate with a little bit of salt and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you can learn how to cook like things like bok choy. You can coat it with butter, put a little red pepper on it, and it just tastes amazing.
Bok choy is awesome. If anybody has ever had the Vietnamese soup pho, PHO, it's delicious. The place we used to go to, the pho house that we had in Mandeville, Louisiana, would always put like an entire like head of bok choy in there. And when you have it with like the piping hot beef or chicken broth, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, so experiment. Biff Tannen's dad. All right, back in the game with Biff Tannen's dad. I have to start wearing a mask in the gym. My condolences, starting tomorrow. Can I expect my work capacity to be diminished? One thing I'm going to say is like I have what I believe is reactive airway disease. Like anytime I get anything in my throat, like a small aphid or a thread or whatever, my airway feels like it's going to lock, and I have to physically try not to have a bad attack. What day was it? My wife's in here. What day was it that we were running and I nearly lost breathing 3 times in an hour? Was that it was earlier in the week.
Wednesday, maybe?
There were so many aphids in the air. I kept breathing them in. But back to the point in bringing that up is like, if I have to wear a cloth or cotton or whatever mask, it's really bothersome. They have the buffs that you can pull over on your nose that are smoother, lighter, and more breathable. I would look at that rather than just a mask, because it's a little bit easier to tolerate. As far as the work capacity and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people don't like it, because they feel like they can't breathe, they get headaches or whatever. Robert, do you have any thoughts or opinions on that?
I just wouldn't go to the gym. I'm not going to support the business if they're going to force me to wear a mask. I will go somewhere else or train at home. But that's my personal beliefs. If you want to keep training at the gym, maybe tell them you have a medical condition that you can't wear a mask, and then see if they'll bow to that, and then say you can get the ADA on their ass or something.
I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's a confusing world.
Yeah. I don't really know. It could if you're doing some super high intensity stuff where you're approaching like your VO2 threshold. Yeah, I could see. But I think for just your average, if you're just doing like 10 to 15 reps per set or like 8 to 12 reps a set, I don't see it having that big of an impact. But if you're doing like some more higher intensity cardio stuff, I could see it having an impact that way. Yeah.
I don't know. I've had to wear a couple, like taking an Uber, and I don't know how people do it longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Both of our cars broke down at the same time, and I had no choice but to take an Uber. And, the Uber driver doesn't give a shit if you have reactive airway disease. He's just trying to do his job and, not get into trouble. So
right.
I was trying to be respectful and put on a mask. But it's a crazy world. Even if you have some illness, you're hypersensitive to, like I am, people don't give a shit. I had somebody chase me down in a Whole Foods. This was before Ohio mandated masks. We just walked into a Whole Foods, hadn't been in one for a while, assumed it was just, like every other store. Some guy chased us around. He had hand sanitizer, a box of gloves, and a box of masks. And he's like, sir. I'm like, what? I'm just fucking looking to see if you have fiddlehead ferns, you fuckhead.
I would have kept walking and just making sure to see how long he would have kept saying, sir.
And he goes to my wife. He goes, can I interest you in a mask? And she says, no, thank you. And we had no idea that they had a mask policy. And good grief, I thought they were going to, the way he reacted, I thought he was going to call the police. Oh, my God.
People need to get a grip.
All right. So we're all batshit crazy. Let's just agree on that. On that, Pat, so I went to the gym for the first time in 5 months. I maintained about 80% of my strength for my squats, which is actually surprising since all I did was pistol squats. Just be careful and ease into that stuff. That's a good way to get injured. Your muscles might be able to handle it, but the connective tissue might not. So just be careful and know that you're probably going to be up to full speed in about 2 months. All right, Nick Johnston. I can do barbell movements with no issues. When I do dumbbell movement, even with lightweight, my shoulders get some bad pain. Example, overhead press with barbell, no pain. With dumbbell, pain. Thoughts? Wow, that's a very interesting and unique question that I've not seen before. Robert, do you have any thoughts on that? I can think of some possible issues, maybe with internal, external shoulder rotation, but any thoughts on that, Robert?
Yeah, it's really weird, especially to the overhead press case scenario, because typically that's the one where people get the most shoulder irritation, is having their arms fixed in that path right there where it's going straight up and down, where dumbbells allow for the freedom of movement throughout the entire ratio. So you could start, with your hands far apart and then bring them up here close, or you can just maintain this neutral grip pressing the entire time, or press out, like in the scapular plane where you're out in like a 45-degree angle away from the midline. But it's very strange that you're having shoulder pain with dumbbell movements. Maybe you check your range of motion, because since you can go through a greater range of motions with dumbbells compared to barbells, maybe you're just going too far down in the lowering and you're putting too much stress on your shoulder joint. That is the thing that's jumping to my mind initially.
Robert, I want to minimize this for a minute and just put my ugly mug up here if I can. Because it'll be easier to explain. you have internal and external shoulder rotation. That could be playing into it. Like when you're doing a press, you want basically wrists over your elbows, right? When you're pressing. If it's inside, right, you see how my elbows are rotating? That's causing internal shoulder rotation. I believe that's what's called internal shoulder rotation.
Yep.
So if you're normal and then you move it in, watch how the shoulders rotate. Move it out, the shoulders are going to rotate the opposite direction. So there could be something like that in play that is causing internal or external shoulder rotation that would be very difficult for us to, analyze without videos.
Yeah, send us a video to one of our inboxes or something, and we can look at and see if you can snag a video of doing some movement with barbell and then the exact same movement with dumbbells, and we can take a look at it.
Yeah, try to get a video from the front if you can, and send it to Instagram at @BenTheBarman, or Robert Shinetsky, the supplement engineer. You guys keep your questions coming. We got about 45 minutes left. I'm going to ram through everything here. Biff Tana's dad, UFOs definitely exist. No proof they are related to aliens. As I've said many times, I believe if aliens were smart, they would just send out, robots or self-replicating. Their idea of a robot would be highly advanced compared to ours. So
here's an interesting thing, Steve. Okay, so did you ever watch the old Twilight Zone?
Maybe the human-robot synergy has already occurred. So go ahead, Robert.
Did you watch the old Twilight series with Rod Serling back from the 60s? I know you weren't alive then, but I'm just saying, it's the reruns are always on the Sci-Fi Channel. I remember growing up watching them with my dad a lot. There was one episode where aliens came down and they cut the power to the city, and the entire human civilization freaked the fuck out. Like they were lighting shit on fire. They just went batshit crazy. And it zooms out at the end, and it says the aliens zoom out and said, "See, we didn't even need to do anything. They'll tear themselves apart." It kind of reminds me of what the hell's going on now with coronavirus. There's something that maybe the aliens just kind of did it here. They're just watching us tear ourselves apart over all this bullshit when they're not even actually have to do anything, and they'll come and enslave us. Yeah,
some great experiment. Chris, favorite multivitamin? We just had somebody send me a message about a multivitamin this week, and I passed it along to Robert. So, Robert, what are your thoughts?
I like Controlled Labs Orange Triad. The PES multivitamin is a good quality one too. Animal Pack Powder is a fairly decent one as well. It's a little on the expensive side. But those, it depends. We're going to look at how extensively you're training and what's your diet. I think for most people, they could get by with just a basic multivitamin. If you're looking to go for a little bit higher quality one, check out PES, their multivitamin, or the Controlled Labs Orange Triad. That's my go-to one.
All right. Ben and Adventure says, speaking of aliens, I love Independence Day. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. Bob, space is finite but unbounded. As your concept of space, that's your concept of space, and I equate that is to someone's view of religion. That's just how we understand it now in our finite and limited capacity, and I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it in that sense. Jermaine Tan made it to today's live. What's up, people? Jermaine is a video game designer and one of my clients, and dealing with one of my fastest. She is amazing. She just grasps form and hammers away at exercises and just does an amazing job. She's about to pass some of my male clients on deadlift strength. Okay, I'm finding it hard to add reps to bicep dumbbell curls and only adding a rep or two every 2 to 3 weeks. Is this normal? Are 4x10 enough to add weight to 5? You're doing 30-pound dumbbells for 4x10. Progress is going to be very slow at that level. A rep or two every 2 to 3 weeks, that's pretty good. That over the course of a year, you're probably going to end up by 40s, by 4x10. And then, in 2 years, you'll be pretty much capped out. I don't know a lot of guys doing more than 50s on dumbbell curls for 4 sets by 10. So, Robert, have you ever taken dumbbell curls to the extreme in your training, just seeing how strong you could get them. I've never really pushed non-hammer curls beyond 50s, to be honest with you.
You doing like a 1 rep max on a bicep curl? No, I don't need to tear a tendon or something.
As far as like progression, like I would say I've gotten 50s up to 4 sets by 10, but that's all I ever needed out of that exercise.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to go back and look at the biceps compared to your quads, your back, your pecs. They're a much smaller muscle group, and the curl is an isolation exercise, so it's only going to be targeting the bicep. And maybe you could make an argument for a little bit of the front delt if you do that, curl up at the very top of it where you bring your elbow forward. But the amount of overload, or like the bandwidth or the range of over which you're going to be able to increase how much weight you lift is going to be commensurate with the size of the muscle. So the biceps are a really small muscle group. So you're going to have a fairly narrow range for how much you can eventually improve your lift. So if you started, at 15-pound dumbbell curls when you first started working out, you may only ever get to like 40 or 50 pounds, like you were saying, Steve, whereas something like a bench press or a bent over row, you might start at, 95 pounds, but because there's so many muscle groups and those muscle groups are so much bigger, they have the potential to lift a lot more weight to where you can get up to bench pressing, 315 a row and 400 pounds or something like that. So, if you're still adding reps, that's fine. And then if you can't add 5 pounds to the dumbbell, just try and get your reps up to 4 by 15.
One point I'll add is like once you get to about 90% of your natural potential, somewhere in that range, 80, 85, whatever. And you're looking at isolation exercises like laterals and curls. Can you get them stronger? Yes. Is it worth it? Is the punishment placed in the stress you're going to place upon your joints worth it? I don't know. That's a debate. It's really easy to maintain, but could I, if I really wanted to, get up to like 70-pound curls for 10 reps? Probably. But I'm not sure the punishment that it places on my body would be worth it. And I really don't think my arms would be much bigger than they are right now. So it's something we all have to decide once we have already packed on a reasonable amount of muscle mass. How much extra strength is actually worth it?
Right.
Rob, is there any exercise or something to hit inner pecs? My left inner pec is not developing. That sounds like some kind of a defect rather than if one side is developing and the other is not. That sounds more like a defect rather than a training issue. Robert, any thoughts on that?
Maybe if we are going to just assume that his right side is more dominant or is a little bit quicker responding, working some unilateral movements in there. So do like single arm cable crossovers. So that way you can get the full adduction and bring the arm all the way across the body. So, and then whatever reps you do on your right side, make the weak side match that. So you'll eventually build up that strength and size and balance.
There's a story I'm reading between the lines here, Rob, because that's what we have to do as trainers. The fact that you can notice a difference in your pecs tells me you're lean. Generally, questions like this come from individuals that are extremely lean and on the lighter side of the weight scale. So I'd be curious where your body weight is at right now. If you're in the 130s, 140s, or even low 150s, what your height is at, because you have to be pretty lean. And the best thing for you, if that's the case, is just focus on the main lifts, getting them a lot stronger than you are now and having some good exercise variety, dumbbells, barbells, dips, maybe even some push-ups, some isolation exercise, maybe working machine chest press, pec deck, cable flies, whatever. But I'd be curious to know your current stats, age, height, and weight. Richard, I'm using your 3-day bulldozer plan, and I've incorporated floor presses to build explosive power. Should I be working explosive movements first or strength first? Always strength first. If you're going to be doing heavy benching, that has to come first. If you're going to be doing floor presses after that, or if you're going to be doing floor presses in addition, then I would do it after your heavy work. But when you say explosive, I'm curious, The only way to really make a floor press explosive is to drop the weight and do it like speed work. So I need some more information on that. I don't like explosive chest work. It just scares me. I always feel like I'm going to tear a pec. That's just me personally. For the inner pec, I found that using cables and crossovers for the center line seems to activate. It may activate them, but you may be able to feel one area more than another. But that doesn't mean the entire area isn't growing. So just keep that in mind.
Correct.
Pat, if you watch Greg's video even a year ago when I followed him back in May, he only had 12,000 subs and he talked normal. That's very interesting. I'm going to have to check that out because, it's very indicative of a person's character. If they do something, it's entertainment. What's your view on this, Robert? It's infotainment, right?
Yeah.
Like any baseball announcer, Bob Uecker, I'm sure he talked differently 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Well, he's so old, 40 years ago. Harry Carey, some of the classic baseball voices.
Yep.
I've had to learn and take seriously how I speak, enunciation, trying to get away from that sort of thing. So, but changing the way you sound or becoming cartoonish, what thoughts do you have on that, Robert? Is it just a show and should we be okay with that? Or what about that kind of makes our stomach turn a little bit?
It comes across as a gimmick, and his delivery is turning me off. Obviously he's very popular. He's got a substantial subscriber base, far more than I do. So maybe I need to start coming up with some kind of shtick and talking like Gilbert Gottfried or something. Or just play into some shtick to make people want to subscribe more. Some people might find it attractive. It's a massive turnoff to me, to where even if you are providing good quality information, there's so much noise and static buffering that signal that I'm going to go somewhere else. I'd rather go watch Athlean that's not doing a gimmick and is just talking in a normal voice, or go watch one of your videos where you're not playing up to do something and come across as hokey or sticky. I'm a very straight to the point person. Just give me the information. I don't want 10 minutes of preamble and all this other bullshit, which is part of the reason I hate Food Network now with all the cooking shows. I haven't watched it in years. Is that now they start doing all like this human interest bullshit, saying, oh, well, my son loves to do this and I make this for my friends when they come. I don't give a shit. Just show me how to make chicken cordon bleu. That's all I'm interested in. And the same thing goes to if I'm ever looking up something like a review on a product or something like a lawnmower, if I'm going to go buy a lawnmower. I don't give a shit what the person's house looks like or anything like that. Tell me, does the lawnmower work or not? How often do I need to change the oil? Does the blade on it get really shitty or anything like that? Give me the information and all the preamble, the bullshit, the shtick, and just get to it. So that's why I don't really, pay attention to a lot of people that go for gimmicks and stuff.
I would say, I made a comment this week that, and it wasn't so much directed at Greg. It was, I said I wouldn't buy a cookbook. Greg has a cookbook for $99. And I said I wouldn't buy a cookbook from Gordon Ramsay for $99. And that's not a dig on Greg. That's just reality. Most of us are not going to buy a $99 cookbook. And I said, especially one that features apple goop. Like, I'm sure apple goop is a fine recipe, but, I'm not going to spend $99 on a cookbook unless I know it's something I can't figure out on my own. Yeah. But, somebody came back to me and said, I guarantee he sells a lot more than you do of your stupid book. And the reality is, look, I've worked in this industry forever. I've worked at places that sold CT Fletcher's supplements, Microsheed supplements, the Hodge Twins supplements. I've met these guys. I've talked with them. I've been in the industry that does business with their products. And I can tell you, circus acts don't sell. CT Fletcher's products sold shit. Jack shit. Nothing. Jack shit. Even the Hodge twins struggle to sell products. Microsheed is an exception because Microsheed has a little bit more well thought out line that's backed by people that know what they're doing. But when people say, "Oh, Greg sells more than you," circus acts don't sell shit. People are there to watch the dancing clown. Now, what does sell is if the dancing clown is able to make a connection and build a relationship with his audience, and they trust his advice, then they're going to buy his cookbook. So you have to be more than a dancing clown. I think Greg is more than a dancing clown. I believe he has a lot to offer to the industry, but sometimes it's lost in his delivery. And in this industry, people equate like subscribers with success. Like I only have 72,000 subscribers after 8 years. Well, I work for myself. I've sold more than 10,000 copies of Massive Iron alone. Probably more than 15,000. I don't even know. It's sold a huge amount at Tiger Fitness, and every single day of my life, I sell 2 to 3 of those, even today, like 5-6 years later. So really the point here is that if you connect with your audience and put out good information, they're going to support you because they trust you. So anyway, that's a lot of rambling. Okay. Nicholas, thoughts on frequent use of artificial sweeteners? Robert, go.
I don't have any issue with it. There's enough safety data on all the major ones. So sucralose, ACE K, and what's the one the one that's in the equal packet? Not saccharin. Shit, what is it? Aspartame. There's enough safety. These things have been so extensively researched, much more so than stevia. So I have no issue having a Diet Coke a day, or a scoop of protein powder and a pre-workout supplement that's got artificial sweeteners on it daily. No issues with it. The stuff showing that it's affecting gut bacteria. What they did was they took some obese individuals, took out their gut bacteria, injected it into rats, and then jacked up the rats with a bunch of artificial sweeteners. And from that, they extended it saying, well, artificial sweeteners changed human gut bacteria. First off, the gut bacteria of the obese individuals was already jacked up to begin with. Then you extracted it from fecal samples, which is poop, injected that into the rat's microbiome, and then you crammed the rats full of a whole shit ton of artificial sweeteners, much more than you would ever get some. So no, within range, it's the same. The dose makes the poison. So when used within reason, there's nothing to fear from artificial sweeteners.
All right, thank you. Rob's coming back, asking Biff on cable crossovers, are you using moderate weight? Don't think of it in terms of moderate weight. Think in terms of optimal weight. You can basically do 8 to 15 reps if you want. Above 12 reps, they get a little bit tedious, but optimal weight is something that allows you to progress. You don't arbitrarily pick a weight. If you're doing 3 sets of 10 or 3 sets of 12 with whatever is on the stack, and each cable system is going to feel differently, but let's say you have 50s on each side, when that feels manageable at a small amount of weight. So don't think in terms of moderate weight, think in terms of optimal weight. Vieri, he said it himself that in person he's completely different. That's Greg Doucette. That he only yells in his videos. He's got some videos where he's training in the gym and he's talking normal. It is what it is. You guys can decide if it turns your stomach or whatever. If he's able to push a button and win the lottery, then you know what? Push the button, win the lottery. Just keep providing good information. I don't see the point in going after people, constantly. That's a game that I wouldn't want to play because it'll always come back and bite you. Biff
Right.
Tana's dad. All right, they're having a discussion on cable crossovers. Bill Leach, coffee, black and strong, the Navy way. Yes, sir.
Yep.
That's me all the way. C. Lloyd 75. Are there any long-term negative effects of taking pre-workout supplements?
Gains, lots of gains. No. It depends on what ingredients are in the pre-workout. So if you have a bunch of stuff that had the super vasoconstrictive stims, things that can raise blood pressure like DMAA, DMHA, AMP citrate, chronic use of those could lead to might lead to some, elevated blood pressure, downregulation of dopamine in the brain, since they're amphetamine-like compounds. But I think for, your average pre-workout nowadays that just has caffeine as the stimulant in it, there's nothing that's in there that's leading me to believe that you're going to have any deleterious effects. I mean, if you're drinking coffee every day, that's caffeine, same thing. You're getting more antioxidants from coffee than a pre-workout supplement, but provided that the only stimulant in your pre-workout is caffeine, I don't see any reason to think there would be a long-term negative effect associated with their use.
All right, thanks, Robert. Yari or Jari, our old school barbell hack squats, bad move. Not inherently. I mean, some people just have a harder time doing them because of their physiology. I can't do them because of my limb links and my, they just feel awkward. But if you can do them, do them. Robert, have you ever messed around with them?
Here and there. I mean, it's like you said, Steve, it's going to depend entirely on your biomechanics and your anatomy, whether it's a good move for you or a bad move. Inherently, no single exercise is inherently bad. It's execution, and it's fit for the individual that's performing the movement.
Yeah, if it's beating you up, don't do it. If you like it and you're having fun with it, get strong on it.
Yeah.
Biff Tan said, I did barbell hack squats when my gym was closed. They seem to work for maintaining strength. Strength is strength, and strength is always a good thing. So if there's an exercise you can do, whether it's barbell hack squats or Zercher squats or, zombie squats or dancing with a barbell on your pecs or whatever it is, let it rip. Awakening of Acuity. Does anybody besides me remember when gear was belt, gloves, and wraps? I do. And that's probably the day back in the day when we called performance enhancing drugs Arnold's. So, or caffeine. Let's see, what do we got here? Accident. Sorry. About typing. Okay, typing from a P-bone phone. Sorry. I'll try that again. Coffee with a half scoop of protein and a teaspoon of creatine works just as fine as a pre-workout. There are some ingredients in a pre-workout that can be beneficial, certainly. But if you're trying to minimize, Robert, or I hate to say dumb down because that's probably not a good way to put it, but if you're trying to simplify and not focus on all the bells and whistles, what are your thoughts on coffee, a little bit of protein, and some creatine? I don't believe creatine pre-workout. I don't like to take creatine pre-workout. What are your thoughts on that?
It doesn't really matter to me when you take your creatine, as long as you're taking it each day. You could make an argument that the optimal, quote unquote, optimal time to take it is immediately post-workout with some carbohydrates when insulin sensitivity will be heightened. Plus, you have the carbs also creating an insulin spike, which will facilitate greater nutrient delivery and absorption into your muscles. As long as you're getting it each day, that's fine. Half scoop of protein. I mean, that coffee with a half scoop of protein works. You're only getting maybe 12 grams of protein. As pre-workout, you may want to up that to a full scoop of protein. So you get 25 grams. That 20 to 25 seems to be the threshold to maximally stimulate protein synthesis in the body. And then creatine, if you're adding it to piping hot coffee, it could lead to some degradation and break down the creatine into creatinine, which is a useless metabolite of creatine, which will not improve creatine stores in the body. So that's, maybe another argument for not taking it immediately pre-workout with a piping hot coffee.
Yeah, the same goes for a protein powder. If you toss a scoop into really hot coffee, it's going to curdle and do weird things.
It's really nasty, yeah.
Yeah, trust me, I've been there, done that. Solaris Genesis. Should white rice be consumed when trying to lose weight? Absolutely. All you need to worry about is focus on your daily calorie intake, being in a calorie deficit, and getting quality foods like that.
Yep.
Robert, there is some, chatter about overconsumption of white rice because of arsenic. Do you know anything about that?
I would say look at the Asian cultures that have it like 3 times a day, every day, and how many of them are dropping dead from arsenic poisoning?
Well, I mean, like, I've always wondered, with sodium, because I'm an athlete, I literally get done with a run, and you can see like the sodium on the salt on my back of my shirt. It's white, and I wonder, for an athlete, do they have greater arsenic requirements? Is it even something we should worry about? I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
So
yeah, I like white rice. I like it a hell of a lot better than brown rice. I know that much.
We cut white rice and black rice. We keep it we mix half and half in our containers, just because I like getting a wider variety of micronutrients. Black rice has more fiber, etc.
Right.
And it doesn't taste any difference. Can you remind me which part of the movement is eccentric and which is concentric? Robert, I'll let you deal with that one.
Eccentric is the phase of the exercise when the muscle is lengthening under tension. Concentric is when the fibers are shortening and coming back together. So if we're looking at a bicep curl, the eccentric is when the weight is up and you're lowering it down to the ground so the bicep is lengthening. Concentric is when you're curling it back up to the top.
Yeah, so in layman terms, concentric is when you're actually performing the rep, and eccentric is when you're moving the rep back into the starting position to perform the rep. Basically the same thing, two different ways of saying it.
Right.
Woodulus. Can't post links. Sorry, remove any web address and try to edit again. You can maybe we can talk about this next time. Just send me the link before next Friday's live and we'll get into it. Riceps Project Blackout. I guess that's what he is.
That might be what he's hyping, but he's not actually. He's just a face for the company. He's not actually involved in formulating it, because I just looked on there. It says our team, and he's not listed anywhere on there.
Okay. He
so
might be an affiliate or a fan or whatever.
Yeah, he might be a sponsored athlete, a hired gun.
Could be his buddy. You never know.
The profile is not terrible. We got 3.2 grams of beta alanine, 1.5 grams of vitacholine, which that's my least favorite form of choline supplement. I like CDP choline or alpha GPC. 1.5 grams of betaine anhydrous, 1 gram of betaine nitrate, 500 milligrams of sodium nitrate. So you're getting 1.5 grams of nitrates there. Which will be a blood flow enhancer instead of doing citrulline. So there's two pathways of nitric oxide production in the body. You've got the nitrate nitric oxide pathway, or you have the citrulline arginine nitric oxide pathway. So they're going with the nitrate pathway here. You've also got 500 milligrams of calcic, which is a complex of calcium, potassium, phosphate, and citrate, so electrolytes. 370 of caffeine anhydrous, 200 milligrams of theobromine, which is kind of like the weaker little brother of caffeine, and that gives a more sustained release of energy. It's a methylxanthine, just like caffeine is, but it's got a little bit smoother energy feel. It helps kind of reduce the crash. And it also has some vasodilatory effects, so it improves blood flow in the brain and in the body. We got 46 milligrams of sustained release caffeine and 10 milligrams of Huperzia serrata extract, which is 100 micrograms of huperzine A. So, I mean, it's not a terrible pre-workout. It's good. I mean, you'd probably get some decent, and you get a lot of energy off of it. Muscle pump should be pretty good as well. I mean, you give anybody 370 milligrams of caffeine, that's going to light their asses up.
All right, next one is a housekeeping. It says, why is your channel flagged as made for kids? I can't turn notifications on. It is not. I just checked. And it is listed as, where's channel? Channel settings, advanced settings. No, set this channel as not made for kids. I never upload content that's made for kids. It says, do you want to set your channel as made for kids? I said, I have no checked as not made for kids. So I'm not sure what issue you're getting. It's not me. It's YouTube acting wacky because everybody else gets notifications. Sorry about that. Jasper Kiefer, anyone have recommendations for keeping the diet in check when stimulant medications are put into the equation? I'm going to jump in and say that first and foremost, you got a plan. Okay. You got to make a plan and you got to remove temptation. Okay. If you're bringing the shit in the house, you're your own worst enemy. So rule number one, if you're on something that's increasing your appetite, make yourself work for that food, especially if it's something you don't want to eat. Number two, and this is where most people fail, make a damn plan for the week and for the weekend. If you can keep the shit out of the house and make a plan, you're 90% of the way there. Robert, any thoughts?
No, you crushed it.
Maybe even fasting. I don't know. Sorry, Robert.
I was gonna say you crushed it. You said everything I was gonna say.
Woodulus, thoughts on compression socks? Thinking of getting some for long hikes. I'm not sure if you've ever jumped into this world, Robert, but it'd probably be an interesting thing to. It'd be interesting for scientific lifter dudes like us to actually study the science of the bullshit that runners do, because I think they do a lot of bullshit, if you ask me. But
yeah,
compression socks, I've used them. And I feel like for the first kilometer to 2 kilometers are aggravating, but after that, things feel pretty normal. So and then I ran a year and a half without them. So I don't really know. The jury's still out for me. That's all I can say. Jermaine Tan, it will be harder to train with a mask. Find something that works for you. Cycling masks works. Yeah, I find it hard enough to grocery shop.
All right. I'll be right back, Steve.
All right. Let's see. Moving along. Thanks for your answer. We'll get a video. Awesome. Let's see. Bill Leach, the monsters are due on Maple Street. Not sure what that means or what I missed there. Let's see. Rob is 18 years old, 70 kilograms, been training for years. So that's, I don't know, 160 pounds. You're probably pretty lean, Rob. My best advice for you is just to focus on a wide variety of movements. We were talking about inner chest training. Do a dumbbell exercise, a barbell exercise, maybe alternate between inclines and declines. Maybe work dips or push-ups in the equation, and maybe a machine, pec deck, chest fly, etc. Just hammer it from a good wide range of exercises. A good exercise selection. Bennett Adventures, any recommendations for a series on Netflix or Hulu? I've been watching baseball lately, so no, not really. We tried to get into Daredevil. I think in the second season of Daredevil, we got kind of a little bit tired of it. Not that it wasn't a good show. So,
yeah, it was an old AMC series, but it went. It just left Amazon. I'm sorry, it just left Netflix. Unfortunately, I think you can get IMDb TV, where it's a free channel. You just got to deal with some commercials during the episodes. But I love Mad Men as a series. I've watched it all the way through 3 times, I want to say. Cheers, if Cheers is still on Netflix, that's an old sitcom from the 80s. It's fucking hysterical. I really like that. What else is on Netflix? Ozark was good. Daredevil was okay. I mean, I watched all 3 seasons of that, and it was all right. I like The Punisher more. Let's see, what else? What other series have you seen? Ozark was good. Narcos, and I like Narcos a lot. Narcos Mexico, I do not enjoy as much.
Would you agree that in Daredevil, when the Kingpin was in the show, that it was a better show? I thought the Kingpin carried that show.
Oh yeah, the actor they had playing him, Vincent D'Onofrio, was awesome as Kingpin. I mean, he was almost made for that role. He did fantastic.
Yeah, and even the interplay between him and his girlfriend, that to me was far more interesting than Daredevil. Completely. And Vincent D'Onofrio, he was in a horror movie called Chain or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to watch a good horror movie this weekend, it's not your typical horror movie. He plays this big, brooding taxi driver that just abducts young girls, and it's so believable. I mean, he's just like an animal, and it's so believable. He just does a wonderful job. So I believe it's called Chained. All right, Mrs. Latoria Thompson, 100%, 100%, 100%. Bill Leach, Greg has a new training manual for $200. It has 60 pages. Holy shit. Oh, my God. Hey, you can sell 1,000 at $29.99, or you can sell 5 at $200. You take your pick. I don't know. Whatever. It's a free market economy. I don't care.
People want to pay for it and support him. That's their prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, 60 pages, after you get through the intro and a couple of workouts, what really can you, get? My massive iron book's like 200 pages for $14.99. But I'm not, I don't have 600,000 subscribers, so I'd rather put, I'm not trying to make my money and run. I'm in this game to help people, and I'm not going to lie and say I don't want to make a living and work for myself. I do, but I continue to put out good content, new workouts, new products and services, and I'm able to work on my own, have my own business, and I live a good life. And I'm not trying to. Greg could literally hammer the cash mill right now and pull the parachute in a year, and you'd never see him again. But if I had that as many subscribers as him, or if Robert did as well, we could do the same thing just by putting out reasonable products at a reasonable price. So that's all I'll say. All right, Scott McEarling, that response from Juicette's fanboy about book sales is typical, to be honest. Next, we'll be following you to the restroom to try to measure up. I get enough of that on YouTube, and Robert will as well, as he he grows. People want to know your height. If you say you ran 100 kilometers, they want to know what was your time. If you say you deadlifted or squatted X, they want to know, well, what was your weight? Because I did it at 5 pounds lighter. Everybody wants to measure dick size instead of just congratulating everybody for the expert. Not everybody, but the insecure people in this industry want to measure dick size rather than saying, hey, good job.
Right.
All right. Awakening to Vacuity. Thank you, sir. JLK's video reviews and fitness. I just turned 16. Excuse me. Been working out since I was 13, and I have 16-inch arms. Will I be able to achieve 18 to 20 in 3 to 4 years? No. Not unless you're big boned and get fat. No. Beginner gains are great, and you've done very, very good, but they do not continue. And some people I'm going to get a lot of comments because I always do, but I've had my arms flexed next to the best over the years in this industry, and my arms are only like 17 and a half, 17 3/4 at 240, 250 pounds, and very few people have bigger arms than me. So naturally, the only way you're going to get 18 is if you're born a giant 6'4", or you become a fatty. Pork meat. Seems you missed my question. Please ask it again. YouTube's funny like that. I've been working out for a couple of years, and I've progressed with a lot of strength in all my lifts, but I can't seem to progress with squats. Do you have any tips? Robert, you want to share any thoughts on that before I dive in?
Yeah. First, if you've been going you're probably stuck in that intermediate phase where you're going to have to be grinding out reps to, if you can add a rep here and there each week or every other week, that's still making progress. It might seem like you're stalled, but, if you're adding reps still, you're not stalled. You're just going to have to keep working hard. Also look at your sleep and your diet. Maybe start, playing around a little bit more with your eating more food before you go into the training session. And if you ride your bike a lot, what is the intensity of those bike rides? Because that's going to be eating into your recovery, at least in some way, shape, or form.
I've made many videos on this before, but plateaus are rarely plateaus. We got to dig into the nuts and bolts and the actual numbers. And a lot of times when we reach those intermediate stages, people will do like 315 by 6, and they'll say, I've only progressed 315 by 8 in a couple months. But if you put those numbers into a meat grinder and check out the impact of your 1 rep max, each rep becomes more substantial and more difficult to achieve when you become an intermediate lifter. So I would really need to look at the nuts and bolts. You can send them to me on Instagram at Ben the Barman. How about tuna? Is the mercury content a worry if you consume too much?
Depends on the species and type of tuna you're eating. So like the chunk light tuna that's packed in water, I believe, is a lower mercury content tuna. If you're eating some of the other forms, there might be some mercury concerns if you're eating it, if you're eating copious amounts of it, or if you're doing some of the raw tuna that you get from sushi stands, depending on what form they're using. It can be, like we always said, dose makes the poison. So understand what form of tuna that you're eating, how it's prepared. where you're getting it and how much you're consuming within a week or a month.
All right, John Doe, what's your opinion on intermittent fasting and low-carb diets for lifting? We left in a comment about intermittent fasting. Any diet is fine as long as your daily calorie and protein intake aligns with your goals. So just don't turn it into a religion. Richard, I alternate your bulldozer plan with some boxing training in between, so the floor presses would be intended to build punching power. Look, Richard, don't overcomplicate this. Bench press is going to build punching power. Floor press is going to build punching power. Strength is going to build punching power. So don't overthink this. There isn't one exercise that's going to build punching power compared to another. So just keep that in mind. And no worries about the character limit. Let's see. One of the better channels for older athletes. Thank you kindly. Ozark was awesome. You know what? I am going to say I did not like Ozark. Hate me.
No, I didn't think the third season was all that good. The third season was really slow and plodding until the last episode or two.
If you look, I just do not. The dude was telling everybody his involvement with these drug lords, right? No bueno. I wasn't buying that. I'm like, dude, you're a knucklehead. And then he's like, he continues to deal with this redneck family. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. I mean, I wasn't buying that either. So I got problems with Ozark, and y'all can send any complaints you have to the complaint department. But it is like a Breaking Bad wannabe, and it's like eating boneless wings. It's not the same thing as buffalo wings, people. It's not the same thing as Breaking Bad. So I was not a fan. Hate me all you want. It was pretty good compared to a lot of other TV, but there's just too many things involved with it that made me angry.
Yeah, the Castlevania animated series is good if you like the old Castlevania video games. The first two seasons of that, or the first season, I think, is the best of the three that they've made. What else was on? I just thought of another couple that we could tell Ben. I didn't like The Witcher. That was just kind of, there's too much setup for that one that they almost needed to release 3 seasons at once because there's so much buildup that goes into there. I already said The Punisher. Dexter, which is an older series that's ended, but it's on Netflix now. The first 4 seasons of Dexter are fantastic. The last 4 are hit and miss.
Yeah, if you only watch the Lithgow season, you'd be very, very happy.
It's phenomenal. Yeah, that is my favorite season. It's heartbreaking, but John Lithgow is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's a really, really good season. All right, rolling along. Monsters on Maple Street was the Twilight Zone episode that Robert mentioned. Yeah. Somebody said Monsters on Maple Street. I'm like, what are we talking about? I thought somebody was doing some code speak or something. Like I pulled up Pornhub in a different tab and I was searching Monsters on Maple Street. Just kidding, folks. It's humor. It's humor. Any tips to get rid of pain in the hips while squatting? Yes. Have somebody look at your squat. That's the fundamental. Without that, nothing. There's no tips that matter. A lot of times you're going to look at your knee angle compared to your foot angle as a fundamental, and if that's in line, then we have to look at other things. And last call. We're about to drop off after Big Kahuna Burger, unless you guys post a question now. So you got like a minute to post a question, or else we're jumping ship. Big Kahuna Burger. Going on my first bulk soon after losing 130 pounds. Nice job. Recommended body fat range throughout the duration of the bulk. Don't think about body fat range. Think about adding max 1 pound a month. Okay. Can you go more aggressive on a bulk? Yes, if you have a good coach that knows your training properly, and he gives you the red light to maybe do 1.5 pounds a month, but 1 pound a month over the course of 2 years, max 24 pounds to your frame, and the majority of that, a good portion of that, should be muscle. Robert, any thoughts on that?
No, I listened to a bulking debate between Eric Helms and Mike Israetel, and they said, around 20% body fat is where you kind of want to cap it if your body fat gets that high. But then that kind of brings into the thing of how well do you actually know what your actual body fat percentage is? Because each of these have their own kind of, ranges of margins of error to where, a DEXA might say you are 12% body fat, but it could be, how much water did you have going into that? What food did you eat right before you took it? So where you might actually be 15, or you could be as low as like 9 or 10. So it's just, I would go back to what you said, just keep it reasonable. And if you start feeling like if it gets too hard to walk up a flight of stairs and you're getting winded that way, you've gone too far.
I'm going to add one thing, Big Kahuna. You've lost 130 pounds. There's a very good chance you have some loose skin, 5, 10, 15 pounds of loose skin. That's going to throw off your body fat percentages and your weight.
Yeah.
I lost 100 pounds. I have some loose skin. It's not major. It's maybe 5 to 7 pounds, which seems like a lot, but it's not. So when I tell people, at my leanest after I lost weight, I was 239. If I got rid of the loose skin, that might be 229. So people are like, your body fat doesn't make sense based on, or your weight doesn't make sense on your estimated body fat percentage. Just keep in mind you got loose skin, so it's going to throw the numbers off a little bit.
Yeah.
Denhart, I don't have any questions. I just want to say you're doing a great job with your channel, and I love your content. Thank you for your support. I will say I've made plenty of mistakes over the years. Trying to figure out this whole YouTube thing, but I feel like I'm in a good place with content. I'm honored to have somebody like Robert with me every Friday. So I appreciate you joining me, Robert. We are pulling the parachute. Again, we hit about the 2-hour mark. If anybody has any questions that weren't answered, head over to Instagram at @BenTheBarman, or follow Roberts on social media, his podcast, his YouTube channel, his Instagram @The Supplement Engineer. All right, Robert, see you next Friday. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Steve. You too, bud.